All right, Bubba, start cleaning those tires up. Green this time. Remember, they fan out down there, so protect that bottom. Sunday drive. All right, boss man. Face car's off. Be ready. All right, bud, be ready. Gas that bitch up. Ready. Green flag. Green.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Inside Pass. We are live in the WSIC studio in Statesville, North Carolina. My name is Tom Baker. Randy Miller off once again this week. He will be rejoining us very soon. But in lieu of Randy, we have a Grant Enfinger set to join us very shortly. And we're really excited to talk to Grant because obviously he is part of the NASCAR Trucks playoff chase, or should I say NASCAR Gander RV and Outdoors Truck Series playoff chase. If you leave me alone long enough, I'll spit it out correctly. I am excited to be with you. We've got a lot of news to talk about a little later on in the show. A lot going on right now. Silly season has kind of hit its peak, and we think, anyway. And so some new developments this week on the Cup side especially. So we'll talk about those later on as well. But right now, we're going to start the show with our special guest today on the Strutmasters Hotline, Mr. Grant Enfinger. Grant, a member of Thorsport Racing and a racer in the Truck Series. Grant is a 3-time winner this season. Grant, welcome to the Inside Pass. Good to have you back on the program.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on today.
Well, it's good to talk with you again. Obviously, a huge stretch for you guys in the Truck Series, and I think an opportunity for everybody to take a breath after Talladega, at least for a little while, and kind of take stock in where you are and, what you need to do in order to make that last push. So let's talk about that a little bit. Where do you see yourself and your team in the greater scheme of things here in terms of the playoffs? I mean, you guys have been running well, but as we know, it's a competitive world out there in the Truck Series.
Yeah, overall we've been pretty good this year. We've had speed at times. We've been a little hit or miss at times, and now it's just about peaking at the right moment. So the second round of the playoffs is going to be extremely tough as we go from 8 truckers down to 4 before Phoenix. So it's definitely going to be all about offense. I feel like your best shot is to win a race, but that's not your only shot. At least one person's going to make it in on points, so you can't just give up your stage points and just throw the Hail Marys at it to begin with. But for us, I feel like it's a matter of rising to the occasion and peaking when we need to. And if we run our best 3 races, then we're in, no doubt. We don't. It's going at this stage of the game. We don't need somebody else to make a mistake, but you slip up in one of these, and then it's a different story.
It really is, and it seems like the margin for error just gets thinner and thinner and thinner as we keep going down from, through the rounds and eliminating more trucks. And you get a track like Talladega that gets thrown into the mix there. And it seems like it's just so hard to really, all you could do is prepare to run your best race there, but there are so many variables that you cannot control at a track like Talladega. So you've got to be kind of happy, I would think, to have that, over and done with. And now you can start to focus back on tracks that are at least a little more certain in some ways, right?
Yeah, I love Talladega. That's the hometown track for me, and I get pumped up to race there every time. And in this race, being at the end of that first round of the playoffs for us in the Truck Series, that kind of changed things for us. And our goal going into that race was to be aggressive and go ahead and get some stage points in those first 2 stages and lock ourselves in. Well, unfortunately, we weren't able to do that. Got together with somebody and just pushed in my quarter panel against the tire and ended up cutting the tire down, went a couple laps down, and at that point, Jeff Hensley and all of our guys at Thorsport Racing did an incredible job getting the truck fixed, getting us back on the lead lap eventually. Just the way everything played out, we were able to get back on the lead lap. But at that point, we had lost all of our cushion. So, I'm not proud of it, but man, we basically had to just not wreck at that point.
Yeah.
So it kind of changed strategy for us at a place that I really love and love to be aggressive at. We really couldn't be. And then we were finally in a position to where we're pretty much locked in at the end of the race, and we were gonna go for it on the green, white, checkered, and then heck, somebody ran out of gas in front of us and got us all checked up, and so it's unfortunate. I feel like we had a really fast Champion Power Equipment F-150, but we weren't really able to show it in the race. But the big thing was we were able to advance on. We're still alive in this championship hunt. And honestly, I still feel like we've got momentum on our side. I feel very confident we're going to show up at Kansas with a really fast F-150 and be in contention to win there.
Well, it's got to help a little bit that you've got a couple of teammates in the playoffs as well. How much does that come into play in terms of, you guys working together and, sharing setups, data, information, all that sort of thing? When you get to this time of year, I'm sure each of you likes something a little different as far as the setup in your truck, but how much can you learn and how much of an advantage is it to have a couple of teammates in the playoffs with you?
It's definitely good from an organizational standpoint. It gives us more opportunities to get more of these Thorsport racing F-150s into the championship for a Phoenix. So that's the biggest advantage at this point. Under normal circumstances, we debrief after practice and we talk and we try to help each other from team to team standpoints. And with the no practice deal, it's harder to do that. The guys talk in the shop, the crew chiefs communicate with each other and all. But from a driver to driver, it's hard to help each other, in the race. The biggest thing is we don't want to hinder somebody that's on our team. So, but you're going to Kansas. The biggest thing we can do is just go out there and try to win the race for our 98 Thorsport Racing F-150. So, the teammate deal, it's great at the speedways. Man, it's great when we have practice and we can talk to each other and, hey, these guys may have started with this air pressure or this kind of camber or whatnot, but really without practice, just lining them up and go, it limits that involvement.
Well, and I guess, again, every blessing has a burden, right? Because I think a lot of the fans enjoy the lack of practice because I think it makes the first stage more interesting and kind of in one way probably balances the field a little bit. But I'm sure for you guys as a team, especially when you get to playoff time, you want all the information and all the current data you can get. And obviously without practice, that sort of takes some of that away. Yeah,
definitely. From a competitor's standpoint, if they let us practice all day and night, that's what we do, and we'd be there. I feel like we've proven as a sport we can do this without practice. We don't have to have practice to put on good shows, and hopefully all this pandemic has been a lot of negatives. Hopefully some of this I feel like will produce some long-term positives. I don't necessarily think we need a lot of practice moving forward, but once we get back to normal, I'd like to see us, have a 20 or 30 minute practice session, but there's definitely no need for the Cup guys to be there for 4 days like they were, practicing all day Friday and qualifying, and then doing more practice and happy hour and everything else on Saturday to race on Sunday. We've proven we can get in and out of there in one day and put on a great show.
Well, I agree, and I love the shorter shows, and I find it to be more interesting, but I also don't have to get into the truck and drive it either, so I can totally understand the opposite point of view for those who have it. But you've got an interesting schedule coming up here in the next few races. You've got you're running on the 17th of October. You got a couple weeks, basically, about 10 days to kind of like I said, take a breath a little bit and assess your situation. You run on Saturday the 17th at Kansas, then Sunday the 25th at Texas, and Friday the 30th at Martinsville. So 3 distinctly different tracks in the way that they race. Do you feel like this is a strong round for you, strong tracks in the round, or do you feel like there may be a track that, has been kind of a bump in the road for you in the past?
I feel like historically, Kansas and Texas both have been strong tracks for us. We're able to run third in both of our previous Kansas races earlier this year. But Texas, we were a little bit off earlier this year. So I feel like, from a strength standpoint, from a historical standpoint, I'd say those 2 races are a little bit stronger for us than Martinsville. But man, I'm so pumped up about the improvements we've made on our short track trucks that I'm extremely excited to get back to Martinsville. So that's one of those true and blue short tracks. Rough them up if that's what it takes. Put the bumper to them there at the end of the race, and man, I hope we're not in one of those positions to where we're right there on the bubble. Going into Martinsville, hopefully we can go ahead and lock ourselves in before then, because there's definitely going to be some drama there. So I've got to commend NASCAR for putting together the schedule that they did this year. Man, to end the first round of our playoffs at Talladega is stressful, and then to end the second round with 4 of them, being eliminated after Martinsville, a place where your good friend or buddy right behind you could just punch you into the grandstands at any given moment is definitely gonna add a little bit of drama to the mix.
Well, yeah, it does for sure. It's it's a very fan friendly schedule, very challenging, I would think, for the race teams, but that's really, I guess, the whole point of it, right? So we're going to ask Grant to hang on. We'll slide him back into the land of hold for a moment. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll have more of the Inside Pass right after these words.
Hello, race fans. This is Chris Wright. Thanks for listening to these guys. Man, what some great radio hosts. You're listening to the Inside Pass.
Welcome back to the Inside Pass. Tom Baker with you. Randy Miller off again this week. He'll be back very soon on the Inside Pass here on WSIC 100.7, 105.9, AM 1400, of course, WSICFM.com across the world, and Race Chaser Radio on your favorite podcast network. Just search for Race Chaser Radio, and we will be there, and this show will be there with us. So we go back to the strutmasters.com hotline. Grant Enfinger from Thorsport Racing has been kind enough to join us for a little while this afternoon in the midst of his playoff run in the Truck Series. Grant, a lot of conversation about the changing Cup schedule for 2021 and some of the new wrinkles that we've seen on the Cup side. More road courses being added. You've got a dirt race at Bristol, some different things on the schedule for the Cup Series. I know that we've not seen the Xfinity or the truck schedules yet, but I'm curious to know if you were in the big seat in Daytona Beach and you could set the truck schedule any way you wanted it for 2021, what might be some things do you like it the way it is? Would there be some things you'd like to see that don't exist? Would you like to see more road courses, for example, to kind of follow in the truck or the Cup Series schedule changes? What would you like to see happen in 2021 with the Truck Series besides the change back to Camping World that we're going to get for the title sponsorship?
Yeah, I feel like overall, the Cup Series, they probably went a little extreme, in my opinion, with adding so many road courses, and now you got three basically of the Rovals. Us in the Truck Series, we only have one road course, so I'd definitely like to see them add a road course, whether that be the Daytona road course or the Charlotte Roval or something like that, to go with our annual trip to Canada every year. So I definitely have one road course, and man, I definitely wouldn't be taking any short tracks away, like the Cup guys took a short track away from Bristol to put dirt on it.
Yeah,
man, heck, I'd be adding a dirt race and taking away an intermediate track myself. So I don't know if there's a reason for us to go to some of these intermediate tracks twice. So I would probably limit us to one of those trips a year, and add a few short tracks around the globe. So it'd definitely be nice to go to Pensacola, Florida, something like that. Lucas Oil Raceway,
yeah, somewhere
like that. So I definitely feel like that's what the decisions I'd be making if I was in that. But I'll be honest with you, they have not asked for my opinion not one time. So I don't I don't think they're going to check with me before they release our schedule.
Well, but it's just fun to kind of hear the driver's point of view when we talk to you guys on these shows, because you get kind of a mixed bag of reactions, and interestingly enough, your thoughts line up almost exactly with mine, which is that I think the Xfinity and the Truck Series, I'd like to see not follow the Cup Series so much and have more of their own identities. And I think one of the things for the Truck Series I'd like to see too is more short tracks. And I definitely would like to see at least one more road course, but not, 5 or 6. It will be interesting to see how things sort of unfold for the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series next year, now that the Cup Series schedule seems so much different. Okay, so let's go back to the Truck Series for a bit here. You've obviously been with Thorsport Racing for a while now, and you've seen obviously a lot of challenges there with the fire a few years ago and, different things like that. Talk about where you feel like Thorsport Racing is right now, because this seems to have been, obviously, unfortunately, Johnny Sauter hasn't had a career year, but, it seems like for Thorsport Racing in general, this has been one of the best, most competitive years in a while.
Yeah, I feel like overall it's been a solid year for Thorsport Racing. If you look back to last year, Johnny brought us home a win, and Crafton brought home the championship at the end. In our '98 group, we won the regular season and we're just solid all year. But we we didn't have that overwhelming speed. I feel like we were able to be solid and to have something to be proud of, but it wasn't that all elusive speed that we were looking for. This year, I feel like there's been 4 or 5 races that we've had that as a group. I looked to a few of these races to where it's like, okay, they knew we were here a few times from an organizational standpoint, not just one truck showing up and hitting it right. So I feel like overall we've made improvements as a group together. We definitely still have work to do, and we've, like I said, specifically for our '98 team, we've got to peak now. So I definitely think we're capable from an organizational standpoint, from a team standpoint, to pull off this championship. And Duke and Rhonda Thorson, this is their 25th year in the Truck Series, so it's a testament to how much they believe in the series and how long they have committed their time, energy, effort, and money into this series. So definitely want to give them something special on such a milestone year. So I feel like we've got a good opportunity with 3 of us still being alive in the playoffs. But man, I think overall it's been solid, but we need to peak here at the end.
Now, I had somebody ask me over the weekend, how can Thorsport be so competitive from Sandusky, Ohio, versus being here in kind of the beltway, if you will, for NASCAR? And I have my thoughts, but I told them, I said, look, we're going to have Grant Enfinger on the inside pass, so I'm going to pose that to him and let him answer it. So how does Thorsport manage to stay competitive from, over there in Sandusky, a city, by the way, that I really admire for a number of reasons? You've got Sandusky Speedway there, and you've got Cedar Point, which is a whole lot of fun for an amusement park.
Well, Dick Thorson will appreciate that for sure. He loves it up there, and he hates it down here in the swamp. He calls Charlotte the swamp, and I'll be honest with you, I feel like there's some disadvantages from a logistical standpoint. From some of the vendors and some of the technology that's down here in Charlotte. But, man, there are some advantages to being away from this as well. There is so many guys at Thorsport Racing that have been there for a long, long time. There's quite a few that have been there for over 15 years. There's a few of the Hendrick Motorsports and the Gibbs and stuff like that you'll find in these high-profile Cup teams that have guys that have been there for that long. But you look around the truck garage, it's not like that. We have a different there's a different feel at Thorsport Racing than there is at some of the shops down here. And man, people are all in. I mean, it's a lot more of that family feel than you have from a business or just a shop feel at Thorsport Racing. So, I think that's some of the biggest advantages that there are. The guys that are on my team now, this is my 4th year with Thorsport Racing. The guys that are on my team now are the same guys that were on it when I came there in 2017. So you don't find that a whole lot in the Charlotte area. So I feel like that's a big advantage that we do have.
And, I look at your driver lineup there at Thorsport, and you've got kind of an interesting mix of personalities there. You've got Johnny Sauter, who, tends to be kind of high-strung and excitable. And then I feel like you're sort of more laid back and relaxed and more like Matt Crafton, who's kind of, at least it seems, he projects very calm and cool most of the time. And then you've got Ben Rhodes, who kind of falls in the middle. He could go either way depending on the situation. And you've got 3 veterans with yourself and Johnny and Matt. And then you've got Ben, who certainly is a veteran, but obviously at a younger age. What's the dynamic like between you guys, both at the track and then away from the track? Because I feel like, again, you guys are all similar, but in some ways quite different from each other.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting dynamic. All over the board at Thorsport Racing, not just the drivers, but man, the crew chiefs that work as well, and it's definitely a lot of different personalities. Fortunately, for the most part, we all get along. most of the time anyway. Sometimes we'll fight like brothers and sisters sometimes, but
Yeah.
but overall we get over it pretty quick. But I accuse Dick Thorson of having his race shop as his little snow globe, and every once in a while he just likes to shake it up to see what kind of reaction he can get out of his guys. But it is entertaining nonetheless, and yeah, a lot of distinctly different personalities from the top to the bottom at Thorsport Racing.
And how do you see the overall state of the truck series in general at this point, as we kind of conclude what obviously has been a challenging year, but just looking at, the overall, goings on in the series, how do you see the truck series right now? And is there anything you'd like to see differently going forward with it?
Feel like the truck series is pretty strong. I would make some of those scheduling changes that we talked about.
Yeah.
I definitely still feel like we need to follow the Cup guys around for some of these races, but not all of them. So I feel like that's something. But I mean, you look at the competition level in the truck series this year, and we've kicked it up a notch. There's another 5-6 trucks each and every week that have a shot to win, and kind of compare it to the different series, and man, trucks are strong. So I feel like overall it's pretty healthy, and man, that's what in America that's what we want is trucks. You see more and more of them driving on the streets every day, and you see manufacturers like our manufacturer in Ford that's really limiting their manufacturing of cars and these more trucks. So I feel like as a culture, we need trucks, and I feel like from a racing and a competition standpoint, the truck series is as strong now as I can remember.
Now, speaking of Ford, that's kind of been one of the challenges I feel like that you guys had to adapt to over the last few years is the transition over to Ford, and it feels like now everything seems to be smoothed out and running the way that you like it to be. You obviously always, want more of everything, right? You want more speed, you want more horsepower, you want more, better handling or whatever the case. But it seems like you guys have gotten very comfortable with each other, and the relationship seems to be really good for both sides.
Yeah, I feel like overall, we've Ford has allowed us to have the resources that we've needed from an engineering and an aero standpoint, and we've been doing our best to take advantage of them. Obviously, you always want more.
Sure.
But yeah, I think we're seeing some of those benefits from making the transition in the 2018 season over to Ford Performance, and I feel like we've made progress as a group. For sure, we've got some wins in the bank there. I feel like we've made progress. I feel like we're continuing to evolve. So I feel like overall the relationship there with Ford has been positive, and we're going to keep trying to make the most of it.
Well, we never like to let you guys get out of here without being able to acknowledge the sponsors that make everything you do possible. So Champion has been so faithful with you with Thorsport over the last number of years. Talk a little bit about Champion for us and give us a sales pitch here.
Yeah, man, the Champion Power Equipment pretty much sells itself. It's if people aren't aware of it, it's a power equipment company. Primarily generators, so portable generators, standby generators. As we see another hurricane about to hit the Gulf Coast, I'm sure they're getting some orders in now. But Champion Power Equipment has been with me. I believe this is year 7 with those guys, and have a great relationship with them. Fortunately, some of those guys were able to come out to Talladega with us, but it wasn't normal, man. It's been a struggle on not only the teams and the fans and the drivers and all, but 2020 has been a struggle for sponsors as well. Sure. We like to do a lot of activation. We like to go around and see the campers out there and thank guys that have their Champion generators out and talk to guys that might be in the market for them, and that's a big part of our sponsorship. So this year we obviously haven't been able to do that. So that's been tough on everybody. So I think that's something a lot of times people are overlooking in all this. It's got, big effects. Fortunately, our relationship with Champion Power Equipment is extremely strong, and hopefully we can get back to normal soon, and we can go visit all our fans and campers out there. But I want to say thank you again to those guys, as well as Mike Curb and Curb Records, and the guys at Farm Paint, and especially Duke and Rhonda Thorson, everybody at Thorsport Racing that allows us to do this.
Well, championpowerequipment.com is the website. And, of course, go follow Grant Enfinger on all social media. Always a pleasure to talk with you, Grant. We really appreciate your time this afternoon and look forward to seeing how you do the rest of the playoffs. Good luck all the way through it. And hopefully we can get you in victory lane and then have an excuse to get you back on and talk to you some more.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks, Grant. Appreciate it. And we're going to step aside here on the Inside Pass on WSIC. We will be back with some news of the week after this.
I'm Chase Elliott, and you're listening to the Inside Pass.
I still, for some reason, have it in my head that one of these days, the inflection in his voice when Chase starts that reentry, that he's going to say, "I'm Chase Elliott, and you're not." And I keep waiting for that and keep getting disappointed every week. Welcome back to the Inside Pass. Tom Baker with you today. Randy Miller not with you today. He'll be back soon. He's on work assignment for a week or two here, but he will get back to us eventually here. In the meantime, I'm keeping you company. I hope that you're enjoying the show and that you enjoy Grant Enfinger. And, Grant's in an interesting situation because as we look at the playoff standings for the Truck Series, he's in good shape as long as he doesn't have a major meltdown. He's far enough above the cut line that realistically, as long as he does what Grant Enfinger does, and has 3 good races in the second round, he'll have no problem making the cut. He's got 3 wins, 6 top 5s, 11 top 10s. And he's in a group of 4 drivers that have won truck races, 4 truck regulars that have won truck races. So, Grant has been, for the most part, the best of the Thorsport team pretty much, throughout the season, or the most consistent. He's led 104 laps, but he's only got 1 stage win. And that's really where I feel like we're going, especially in the Truck Series. with the tracks in this coming round, you got Kansas, Texas, and Martinsville. Stage wins are going to be important because remember that, every time we throw the caution and end one stage of a race, the top 10 all get stage points, which adds to your total playoff points total. And so the more wins you get, every time you win a stage, it's 10 points. That's going to become more critical. And here's why. If you look at the actual playoff points, Austin Hill and Sheldon Creed are tied right now at the top with 28 points. And you've got Zane Smith in third with 22, so he's only 6 points back. Then you've got Enfinger with 19, so he's 9 points back. So again, the top four within 10 points right now in the playoffs. Brett Moffitt, 16 points. Ben Rhodes, 14 points. Then Crafton at 9 and Ankrum at 3 make up the 8 that would go to the next round if we ended it right now. But of course, we've got a whole other round of races to run. And, and those guys are the ones that are really in the mix here in the playoffs at this point. Now, you've got Eckes, you've got Gilliland, you've got Kraus, you've got Lassard, who picked up a win at Talladega on Saturday, who are, all fast and all racing well. But again, I think these top 8 are where you need to focus, and all of them it's important for each of them to start winning some stages and being up front at the end of these stages, because bonus points everywhere you can get them are going to be important here as we go down the stretch. Ankrum's in, but by the hair in his chinny chin. That is not a unique position for him. He was it's sort of the same thing we saw out of Tyler last year at DGR, but he's going to have to obviously pick it up a little bit. You've got to start having those top 3, top 5 finishes, and you've got to get valuable stage points. It's just every point matters as we go farther and farther toward the championship and start eliminating. And right now, with 8 trucks in the mix here and Tyler Ankrum right on the edge, it's again for he and Crafton. You got to get some stage wins. Tyler has 1 on the year. Crafton, 0. He's the only one in the top 8 without a stage win. And ironically enough, he has a race win this year, which he didn't get last year, but he survived on points to put himself in the Final Four and then went to Homestead, where we were deciding the championship last year, and won. So, you have that one good race in what ends up being the Super Bowl, and you put the win on the board and win the championship. Crafton's in an interesting position because I feel like he's had better speed this year. But again, 1 win. Now he's had 8 top 5s, which is a second on the list among the playoff guys. Austin Hill's had 9. So Crafton's been very fast and very consistent, but he's got 1 win and no stage wins. So every point matters as we go forward into the next round here. And I feel like Crafton and Ankrum in particular, along with Rhodes and Enfinger, who each only have 1 win apiece, both of them are going to have to play for some big-time stage wins in the next 3 races because you want those bonus points. Okay, speaking of the Truck Series and speaking of Kansas, we had a bit of news that just came out. Hailie Deegan is going to get her first ever Gander RV Outdoors Truck Series start with DGR Crosley at Kansas. This was just announced this morning, shortly before we went on the air to record the show. We record on Wednesdays. And she's going to drive the number 17 Ford for DGR Crosley. She runs for them in the ARCA series at this point. She's third in the standings. She's got 4 top 5s and 16 top 10 finishes out of 19 starts so far, but she's yet to win. Now, it's interesting that she's choosing Kansas, a 1.5 mile track, to make her first start. And so we'll have to see how this works out. She becomes a teammate for that particular race with Tanner Gray, who's been running the full season for DGR Crosley in the Truck Series. And so Hailie Deegan getting her first opportunity to jump up to the Truck Series out of the ARCA Series coming up in a couple of weeks on the 17th of October at Kansas. So that should be fun. Okay, now let's talk about, or start talking about, silly season, because Cup silly season continues to produce big news and continues to leave us with a lot of mystery here. Here's the big news of the week. It was announced yesterday that Alex Bowman will replace Jimmy Johnson in the number 48 for Hendrick Motorsports beginning in 2021. Now, let me be clear about how this is going to work here, because Alex is not leaving the team he's driving for, which is currently the 88 car, and going over to the team that Jimmy Johnson is driving for, which is currently the 48. Stay with me here. Here's what's going to happen. The team that Bowman currently runs for, all they're going to do is take the Ally colors and the number, and they're going to swap it over to the current 88 team. Okay, so we're just changing the skin on the car. We're not actually, the driver's not changing teams. The teams stay the same. And the difference is that the Ally sponsorship and the 48 number now go over to what is now the 88 car for Alex Bowman. So Greg Ives will still be his crew chief. All the team, at least as far as we know, is going to be the same. The current group of guys that Jimmy Johnson is racing for, the mystery deepens as to who's going to drive with that team. Okay, that will no longer be the 48. What I'm hearing is Kyle Larson is going to come back to NASCAR, and he will sign a contract with Hendrick Motorsports to drive for what is currently the 48 team. The number, again, what I'm hearing, and I look, don't hold me to this, because again, there's a lot of stuff swirling here, but my sources are saying it could be numbered 5. In other words, Hendrick's going to bring his number 5 back. He's had that kind of parked for a while. The 88 then would be parked. The number 88 would go away, be replaced by the number 5, and that's what the 48 team that is currently the 48 team would now be the 5 team for Kyle Larson. So that's what we're hearing anyway. I will still believe this when I see the press release. And the reason I say that is because the major obstacle that you would think would make this a challenge is that Rick Hendrick has never been a car owner who likes to see his drivers go off and do other kinds of racing very much. He's allowed Alex Bowman to run the Chili Bowl once a year in January, which is a big midget car race that happens every year just after the new year. And Casey Kane, when he was driving for Hendrick a while back, did run some dirt races. But other than dropping back and running Xfinity for Junior Motorsports, these guys really haven't, you haven't seen Hendrick allow his drivers to do the kind of racing outside of NASCAR that Kyle Larson, I know, likes to do on the dirt. So I think the major obstacle to this, one major obstacle is, can Rick Hendrick and Kyle Larson come together and agree on how much dirt track racing Kyle is allowed to do during the season? And can both of those gentlemen end up being happy with what gets decided? What does Ally want? You know, maybe Ally says, we'd like to be a part of Kyle's dirt track racing. And suddenly Rick Hendrick says, well, okay, if the sponsor's okay with it, I should be too. So a lot of this is dictated by the sponsor. And the other obstacle is obviously that Rick Hendrick is the main Chevrolet Cup team. And obviously Kyle had some issues earlier in the year with something he said while he was employed by Chip Ganassi Racing, which was a Chevrolet team, and that caused him to be basically banished from NASCAR for a while. Now, it appears that perhaps a lot of that contention, shall we say, has been smoothed over, And Kyle certainly appears contrite, and in fact, the blog on his website was extremely sincere that he wrote this week. So I feel very comfortable that Kyle has learned a great deal from this experience, and that coming back to Cup into Hendrick Motorsports for an owner like Rick Hendrick, who is so good at teaching his drivers about leadership and about character and all of that, may be just exactly what Kyle Larson needs. But this is not as easy as you think it is to put together. So everybody's saying it's basically a done deal, and maybe it is. Like I said, I'll believe it when I see the press release. I'll talk about some other silly season things when we come back for the break right after this on Inside Pass.
This is Justin Lofton, and you're listening to the best guys on the radio, the Inside Pass.
Welcome back to the Inside Pass. Tom Baker with you from the WSIC studios in Statesville, North Carolina, wherever you're watching or listening to us from. We do appreciate you engaging with us and spending an hour while we talk racing. And we enjoyed our conversation with Grant Enfinger earlier, talking about silly season now, and just talk some about really the what is to me the biggest mystery of them all, or at least that's the way it's being portrayed so far. I'm not sure it's as big a secret, because I do think that everything points to Kyle Larson being in the other Hendrick car, which will either be the 88 or the 5, depending on what they want to put on it, or maybe they'll make it 57 for Kyle Larson's sprint car number. Who knows? But it does seem to be heading in that direction. Now, what else do we know about silly season? Well, a little, but not much. I do know that Daniel Suarez situation is done. I cannot, because it was told to me in confidence what he's doing and who he's doing it with. I'm not going to be one of those guys that's going to betray a confidence to break a story. I will just say that Daniel Suarez knows where he's going in 2021. We'll leave it at that. And let me move on to the 43, which is Richard Petty Motorsports, which is Bubba Wallace's current ride, which Bubba Wallace is vacating at the end of the 2020 season to go over and drive for Denny Hamlin and Michael Jordan in 2021 with their brand new team that they're putting together. Right now, I think you've got two drivers. Again, some of this is speculation. Some of it's also what I'm hearing from the garage. 2 drivers that are contenders for the 43 car. The top name I keep hearing is Ty Dillon. Now, why would Ty Dillon make sense? Well, because A, the Geico Racing team that is owned by Bob Germain is going away at the end of the year. That charter has been sold to the Hamlin Jordan team and for Bubba Wallace to use next year. So the 13 team is going away. Now, that leaves Ty Dillon without a ride. Well, the 13 team has been a satellite, has had a technical partnership with Richard Childress Racing, which is, of course, Ty Dillon's grandpa. So when you look at where could Ty end up, the 43 makes perfect sense because Ty Dillon is obviously the grandson of Richard Childress, and Richard Petty Motorsports also has a technical partnership and is located right on the Richard Childress Racing compound or property. So it would make total sense for Ty to slide over to the 43. Now, why wouldn't it make sense? Well, because Andrew Murstein, who owns the 43 team, is really into diversity. And so you would have thought that perhaps Daniel Suarez would be the leading candidate for that car. So I'm not going to tell you what Daniel's doing, but I am going to tell you that Daniel's not in the 43. So that car is still open, and I don't know what else in terms of diversity would be available. So you look at other drivers, and I think Ty Dillon becomes the leading candidate for that car. But I also would keep my eye on Eric Jones because we don't know yet where Eric's going. Eric's been working on a number of things. I don't believe you're going to see him at Stewart-Haas because I believe that if Clint Boyer leaves the 14, if he retires, it's going to be because Chase Briscoe's coming up from the Xfinity Series to replace him in that car. And so I think, again, if we assume Larson's at Hendrick, and he's not going to be with Stewart-Haas, which to me would have made more sense for a number of reasons. But if we assume that to be true, then I think if Boyer's out, Briscoe's in, and that would leave Eric Jones with no place to go over there. And really the best available rides then would be the 43 car and maybe the 37, which we keep hearing that Ryan Preece is leaving. But yet, I also heard yesterday he's not. So we don't know for sure that that ride's even going to be open. So I'm not putting it on the board until we know that there's going to be a change there. But that would be a perfect spot for Eric Jones to go. He's a team with Ricky Stenhouse because Eric doesn't bring a whole lot of sponsorship, and that car is fully funded. So the rumor about Preece has been that he's leaving to replace Briscoe in the Xfinity number 98 for Stewart-Haas. And if that rumor would be true, then obviously Briscoe's not driving the 98, which would lead me to believe that he'll be in the 14 and Boyer will be in the Fox booth with Mike Joy and Jeff Gordon in 2021. And wouldn't we all like to see that, right? So the 32 car is still open. No word on any potentials for that yet. It has had I would call it a limited technical partnership with Stewart-Haas. And I keep hearing that we're not going to see Briscoe in that car. And so who knows? I mean, you've got Eric Jones out there. You've got Ty Dillon out there. They're probably the best 2 prospects. Corey LaJoie, also a great prospect. I would put him right there with the other 2. So you've got 3 really solid prospects out there. I don't think we know for sure what Ryan Newman's plans are, so that 6 car could be kind of sneaking in if Ryan decides to retire, but I'm betting he comes back for one more year. Kurt Busch coming back for another year, so no openings at Ganassi now that Chastain's in the 42. And so if you can remember all this, I hope you took good notes. There's going to be a quiz on this next week. And probably half of it will have completely changed because that's what silly season has done to us over the last few months. But keep your eye on Hendrick Motorsports because I suspect now that we've announced Bowman going to be with Ally in the 48. I think you're going to see a fairly quick announcement on who's going to be the fourth driver in that stable for next year. I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you all for watching and listening. Look forward to having you back with us again next week on the Inside Pass. I'm Tom Baker. Have a great week, and so long, everyone.